NLP really comprises three basic areas that a lot of people kind of gloss over. Because, is this useful, by the way, or am I just kind of going off?
Really,
Jay, you haven't really shared what you want to
No,
know.
it's just, yeah, I'm still, from the basis of just the meta-modeling, that actually has helped me go, oh, okay, now I know how to process that.
So, there's three.
I'm just absorbing it like a sponge.
There's three characteristics that you need to embrace about NLP. One, it's a methodology. Okay, it's not a science. NLP is very systematic, but it's not scientific. You understand the distinction? All NLP cares about is, does it work? We don't care if science has proven it or not. When I teach, I tend to bring a lot of neuroscience into the work, because if it's been tested in what I think is the most flawed method of discovering anything in the world, the scientific method, and it's been proven, it's probably going to be pretty reliable. And we can go into that, why I feel that way later. But
yeah, I was going to say that's a loaded comment. Most flawed method.
One of them. And really because, I'll go into it later. But the methodology is a method of inquiry. It's an attitude and a skill set that ultimately results in a technique. In a technique. And as a rule, that technique will be somewhat different for every individual that you work with. Why? Because you're all different, just not that much. Okay? So while we'll use the same sets of protocols and attributes and things like that, we'll structure them differently based on the person in front of us. Attitude is one of the places most people kind of lose it. They don't understand that there's an attitude that you have to embody to be really effective at NLP. If you want to install things. There's also a skill set. The skill sets go to the models. Okay? And of course, the inquiry. The inquiry and the skill set, and that idea of being fearless, of being resolved to go through and do whatever you got to do to get the result. That's what kind of moves you forward to challenge what people think is going on and go even deeper. So, and the techniques are secondary, but most people just want to learn NLP techniques. Okay. The problem with it, anytime you take a textbook thing, is there's a certain percentage of people that's going to work on, and there's a certain percentage of people it will not.
So it's sort of like learning a script as opposed to the principles.
Very much so.
A lot of script.
Very much so. Most NLP techniques are very powerful, but again, people pay attention a lot of times to the wrong things. Because you see, you can have a great NLP pattern or NLP technique, but if your delivery mechanism is flawed or isn't strong, you're not going to get the same result. Perfect example is if you go to, I think it's Core Transformation, I think is what it's called, by Steve and Connie Ray Andreas. They have some great NLP interventions in that book. And at the end of each chapter, first of all, you'll see a case history, an actual transcript of how they're learning through the process. And at the end of each chapter, there's a summary of the steps in the technique. And I guarantee you, most people pay more attention to the summary of steps in that technique than they do to the transcript. And that's the average human being. Why? Because they discount the language used to deliver it. That's the Milton model. The Milton model is how you deliver. The meta model is how you elicit response so you know what they're doing and why.
Say that one more time.
Which part?
The Milton and
the Milton model is how you deliver the technique, or how you deliver the intervention. Okay. But the meta model is how you elicit response so that you can calibrate what they're actually doing or not doing. One of the skill sets that you have to have,
Seems like you need both.
you need everything. And this is the problem. This is, the original NLP training used to be weeks long. I mean, like, bordering on months long. You go for crack and you go for 3 weeks for practitioner or whatever. I remember those days. I couldn't afford it in those days. But I remember reading about them and stuff like that. And as more and more people have learned it, they've dumbed it down, they've diluted it, they've been spitting people technique and not giving them skill set. Which is why I'm standing in front of you today, because most of the people I ran into couldn't NLP their way out of a wet paper bag. Okay? You remember, at the end of the day, NLP, in spite of all its really cool stuff, is really just hypnosis. It's just a different way of approaching hypnosis. Okay? It's approaching hypnosis from a structural perspective. How do we change the way we code those internal experiences in such a way that it changes our external experience?